Legislation involving Ohio's trans community moving forward at the State House, but not without fierce opposition from the LGBTQ plus groups in the Buckeye State. Thanks for joining us on Face the State. I'm Clay Gordon in for Tracy Townsend this morning. The Ohio House of Representatives passed a controversial bill that would prevent doctors from providing gender-affirming care to trans youth. It also prevents trans athletes from participating in Ohio women's sports. And we should note, House Bill 6, dubbed the Save Women's Sports Act, was added to House Bill 68, also known as the Save Adolescents from Experimentation Act, or SAFE Act, through a substitute bill. House Bill 68 would prevent doctors from giving puberty blockers and hormone therapy to trans youth. And as of Friday morning, the legislation was in the Ohio Senate. 10 TV's Ashley Bornanson was there.
Singing, protesting, the sounds outside the State House today, while one voice remains silent. Advocates for trans youth.
We are encouraging people to still stay involved in the activities of the State House by directly contacting legislatures, but to stay away from in-person activities, mostly for their own protection, for their own safety.
James Knapp, the chair of Trans Ohio, says the hearings on the House bills surrounding gender identity are taking an emotional and physical toll on trans youth advocates.
We've had a number of claims of discrimination, harassment, people being followed home.
Meanwhile, inside the State House, State Representative Adam Byrd says all have a right to express their freedom of speech.
I've seen no evidence that this isn't a safe place for protesters.
Byrd says he's fighting for parents' rights to stay in the loop on their child's sexual identity and to protect their bodies from any sex changes.
I reject the term gender-affirming care. I don't believe it's care to mutilate someone's healthy body.
Meanwhile, State Representative Michelle Grimm claims these bills are pushing Ohio backwards, taking away the privacy and bodily rights of children.
This forces teachers to out children to their parents.
Grimm says the state's actions are harmful, and she hopes will be stopped by the federal government.
We're going to force kids to detransition. So we're going to force a lot of kids to not be able to live their authentic selves.
Regardless the side, the lawmakers agree these decisions are not taken lightly.
I'm not going to get to the governor's desk anytime soon, and I think that speaks to the fact that it is tough. We do weigh a lot of different issues when we consider these bills.
Ashley Bornanson reporting. Opponents of those bills say access to health care is critical. TV's Kiana Deitch spoke to parents advocating for health care resources.
Jean Ogden's journey with gender-affirming care began when her daughter was 15 years old. Several years later, she says she's tired of fighting for resources like health care.
It's exhausting fighting for yourself, and it's exhausting fighting for basic human rights like health care and dignity, respect.
In the midst of a youth mental health crisis, parents say it's more important than ever to protect the right to health care.
I have a 22-year-old trans daughter, and when she came out to me when she was 15, I was scared.
Jean Ogden says fear steered her away from getting care for her daughter, Cam.
The information I found scared me. It told me she was going to harm herself, change her body, and regret it when she was older. And so we decided to, push off any exploration of that with her. We were afraid to take her to a gender clinic.
She says she wasn't only afraid of the medical treatment, but afraid of how she'd be treated by others.
We hear that these kids are delusional or that they're mentally ill.
Looking back, she says none of it was true, adding that Cam went on to get care on her own when she turned 20.
I realized how much she had suffered during those intervening years. And she did. She's a bright kid, but she struggled.
Now she spends her days advocating for resources for other trans youth.
I know now that gender clinics, most of the kids that go to a gender clinic do not receive any kind of medical care. I know that anything like puberty blockers or hormones are never given to kids until they hit puberty.
And her fight does not end here. We have a list of resources for parents and teens on our website, 10tv.com. In Columbus, Kiana Deiches, 10 TV News.
This weekend marks 1 year since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, eliminating the federal constitutional right to abortion. And since then, almost every state has taken action to either restrict or expand abortion access. CBS News reporter Natalie Brand takes a look at what that means for clinics on both sides of the issue.
And for 38 years, our practice for the day that Roe versus Wade was overturned. So this is when the real work begins. And
Sylvia Johnson runs a pregnancy center in Houston, Texas, a state with one of the country's strictest abortion bans.
women are needing more services, and they're looking for places so that those services can be provided for them.
Johnson estimates demand has grown 20% for the support her faith-based nonprofit provides. She's doubled medical staff, added case managers, and opened an additional location.
Are the cases tough? Yes. Is it hard? Yes. Is there a lot of fear gripping this culture and the community and the women that we're serving? Yes, we're seeing a lot of that.
Texas is one of 20 states that has banned or limited access to abortion since the Dobbs decision, while just as many states have strengthened the right to an abortion. Courts have blocked or paused some of the bans, with legal challenges ongoing.
The current state of the courts and the restrictions is nearly impossible for us to follow.
Dr. Shanthi Ramesh serves as the chief medical officer for the Virginia League for Planned Parenthood, which is seeing a rise in out-of-state patients seeking an abortion.
Yeah, so we're seeing patients from really across the whole Southeast.
Dr. Ramesh says her clinic has also expanded services such as medication abortion.
At our 4 sites, we're seeing patients almost every day of the week. We've opened up some weekend availability or evening availability to try to meet the needs.
Ramesh and Johnson are working to keep up with different needs as the Dobbs decision changes where abortion can be accessed in America. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Washington.
Now, as for the political battle over abortion, a new poll from USA Today and Suffolk University found the abortion issue is tied as the 5th most important topic on voters' minds, behind inflation, immigration, threats to democracy, and gun control. Technology becoming a critical part of the state's strategy to stop drug abuse and violence. This week, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine talked about how analysts track electronics like cell phones to get to the root of the problem. 10 TV's Kevin Landers was at that drug abuse summit.
Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is requesting lawmakers increase funding for Ohio's Narcotic Intelligence Center. That statewide task force is tasked with disbanding drug trafficking throughout the state.
This is what ONIC really specializes in doing. It's an intelligence unit. Cell phones are not the only thing that it does. You can pull information down from computers. They're just great in organizing a lot of data.
Governor DeWine says he's asking lawmakers to spend $13 million across the biennium to help the ONIC. He's also tasking the Ohio Liquor Control Commission and OHP to assist local law enforcement to combat violent crime. Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
Well, this morning, Northwest Ohio still recovering from last week's tornado damage. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine got a firsthand look at the damage this past week. He visited Toledo, where neighbors were still cleaning up their properties. Governor DeWine says he's working to figure out why no emergency sirens went off when the tornado actually hit.
We didn't get it here, and I guess the question that the community has a right to know is why not? And I'm not saying anybody did anything wrong or did anything bad, but they owe us, the Weather Service really owes us, I think, a really full explanation.
And we know the National Weather Service did not issue a tornado warning for the Toledo area until after the EF2 tornado had already hit. Kicking mobility into high gear.
Interestingly, people get a little uncomfortable about the word wealth, especially with people of color in the conversation, but it's really about, and studies now show that when Black businesses are doing well, the entire community is doing well. So this is really a conversation about economic development.
Coming up, mobility and color. 10 TV's Tracy Townsend speaks with 2 Central Ohio leaders, making sure everyone benefits in the field. But first, the East Palestine train derailment. Was the controlled burn really necessary? The panel pushing to get answers after this. Welcome back. 5 months after the Norfolk Southern train derailed, a panel of NTSB investigators grilled leaders from Norfolk Southern about the moments after the wreck. As 10 TV's Lindsay Mills reports, one hearing revealed how long it took for first responders to get vital information about the crash.
Jessica Connard is a mom and lifelong East Palestine resident. She wonders every day if she and her family should take on the financial burden and leave for their safety.
This NTSB hearing, I really feel like, is critical, not just for rail safety, but for my community to really start healing and understanding what happened. We've been waiting a long time.
She was among the many who attended a community meeting Wednesday night with the NTSB ahead of the start of a 2-day investigative hearing at East Palestine High School.
The whole point of this is making sure that this doesn't happen again.
At Thursday's hearing, it was revealed that critical information took hours to get to the people who needed it. It revolves around what the train was carrying. Here's the timeline from the NTSB. On February 3rd, 2023 at 8:55 p.m., the derailment happened. At 9:04 p.m., East Palestine Dispatch called Norfolk Southern. At 9:30, they tried calling again. An hour after the wreck, Columbiana County Emergency Management Agency received the consist from Norfolk Southern. Between 9:45 and 10 p.m., the deputy chief in East Palestine got it. 10:23, another responding fire chief received the consist. 1:30 a.m., East Palestine Police received it. Then at 2:15 a.m., the East Palestine Fire Chief found the consist printed on a desk at the command post. However, an email chain between Norfolk Southern and its contractor for monitoring air quality showed the contractor was notified only minutes following the derailment.
How is it that Norfolk Southern could provide the contractors responsible for cleanup with the information within 12 minutes of the derailment and took an hour to several hours before providing it to emergency responders?
I can't explain the time frame.
And that was Lindsay Mills reporting. Much of the hearings this week also centered around the decision to vent and burn in the days following the wreck. This was the grand opening for the largest downtown Columbus area development since the Arena District. It's called the Gravity Project. It's located in Franklinton. It is considered the largest conscious community in the world. And now phase 2 of the project is complete. These are places where people live, but it's much more than that.
It's not just a place where people work and live. This is a place where we bring all the things that they love to do, that they're passionate about, right to their home, right to where they work, in hopes that, it's more convenient and allows them better access to the things they love about life.
Phase 3 of this project is expected to get started next month. When COVID forced many people home, many didn't return. We've covered this before, but this morning we're learning how Central Ohio banks are playing a key role. 10 TV's Kevin Landers is searching for answers and the identity of the capital city skyline.
By 2019, the percentage of vacant office space in the Columbus area was 14%.
And today we're sitting at about 26.7%, so almost double the vacancy post-COVID.
In downtown, known as the Central Business District, it's not much better.
The CBD, which is what we call the Central Business District, was sitting at about 13.4% pre-pandemic. It's about 23.3% today.
What's causing the problem?
We are seeing a higher vacancy rate for sure because of the work from home situation.
Most of the empty space is what's known as middle tier. They are often older buildings that don't have amenities as newer ones. It's those buildings, experts say, that will need to either be remodeled or repurposed to attract paying tenants.
We're really talking about the middle tier, which is about 45% of the buildings here in Columbus. They're going to have the decision to make.
While Columbus is experiencing high office vacancies, experts say there's no need to sound the alarm. Unlike larger cities with high office vacancies like Los Angeles, New York, or Boston, Columbus remains a less expensive alternative to high rents without major price swings that larger cities tend to have.
Our property values have never skyrocketed the way like the West Coast or South or East Coast have.
Even banks aren't concerned about high vacancy rates because Columbus, they say, continues to grow.
So I don't really think it's going to be a big issue here.
Combs says vacancies don't always mean landlords aren't getting paid.
A lot of times the vacancy rate is there, but the leases are still in effect. So let's say a a company moved out and downsized, well, they're still liable for that lease, which means there's still cash flow coming to the property.
And I think that there's a lot of dynamics in Columbus that say that we're better positioned than most cities because of our growth. I think there's an assumption that when you hear national numbers that are in those ranges of 30%, 40%, we don't necessarily see Columbus getting there because we do have job growth.
Kevin Landers, 10 TV News.
Experts say they don't believe higher interest rates play a large role in what investors decide to do with vacant office space. Mobility is all about moving people and moving goods. Smart mobility is all about automation, data, technology being used for the future. Dublin is one of several Central Ohio cities making mobility the foundation for economic success. City leaders and corporate leaders are looking to include people of color to the 33 smart corridors through what's called Mobility in Color. 10 TV's Tracy Townsend has more on how everyone benefits from this.
So there is a infrastructure on the Beta District corridor that includes fiber, dedicated short-range communications, which is a wireless standard that communicates with vehicles, allows vehicles to communicate with each other. And the Honda plant is there, the Transportation Research Center, Honda R&D of the Americas, and an automotive supply chain, just dozens and dozens of companies that are all doing engineering and that kind of work.
It's also known as the Beta District and branded as where the future is tested in the Columbus region. Here's an aerial view of the major highway interchanges and its accessibility from I-270 and all points to the north and west. Doug McCullough, who's the Chief Information Officer for the City of Dublin, and Columbus CEO Collective President and CEO Elizabeth Joy are laser focused on getting business leaders of color connected to the corridor.
These business leaders, these people of color, were they just sort of working on their own in their own spaces before being part of this sort of collective, for lack of a better word?
They were, and we began to notice that there were people working in these spaces who really had a legitimate interest in these types of technologies and infrastructure, but were not being invited or introduced to the resources and the agencies and the governments that could inform them in ways that could assist them in building partnerships and all sorts of other things beneficial to their businesses.
McCullough and his team in Dublin put together what's called Mobility in Color to expose and connect Black business leaders. He and Joy say it's a match that will benefit everyone.
Interestingly, people get a little uncomfortable about the word wealth, especially with people of color in the conversation. But it's really about, and studies now show that when Black businesses are doing well, the entire community is doing well. So this is really a conversation about economic development. And we know that very often Black business owners and leaders are left out of conversations when there's opportunities for business, when there's opportunity for investment.
For Face the State, I'm Tracy Townsend.
The political implications of a plea deal and how drama within the Trump family could play a role in the upcoming election. We speak with a political expert at The Ohio State University. And awarding a good cause, the safe driving effort being honored by 10 TV News. Welcome back to Face the State. I'm Clay Gordon. A plea deal has been reached in the federal investigation into the president's son, Hunter Biden. Mike Valerio has the latest.
Hunter Biden, the son of President Joe Biden, will plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax offenses and struck a deal with federal prosecutors to resolve a felony gun charge. According to prosecutors, Hunter Biden owed at least $100,000 in federal taxes in both 2017 and 2018, but did not pay what was due to the IRS by the deadlines. Last year, a lawyer for the president's son said his client has since, quote, fully paid those IRS debts. The 53-year-old also struck a deal with federal prosecutors to resolve 1 felony gun charge. In 2021 interviews with the media, Hunter Biden talked about how he'd been addicted to drugs, which raised the possibility he broke federal law when he bought a firearm. The White House issued a statement saying, quote, the president and first lady love their son and support him as he continues to rebuild his life. We will have no further comment. Former President Donald Trump slammed the plea deal. Writing on Truth Social, it equates to a mere traffic ticket. The U.S. Attorney for Delaware, David Weiss, appointed by former President Trump, says the Hunter Biden investigation is ongoing. Republican Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy says the agreement won't impact a Republican congressional probe into the Biden family's business dealings.
It actually should enhance our investigations because the DOJ should not be able to withhold any information now.
I'm Mike Valerio reporting.
This past week, a trial date in August was set for former President Donald Trump's charges related to classified documents. Both the Hunter Biden case and the Trump case will likely fuel conversation and controversy in the 2024 presidential campaign cycle. We spoke with Professor Emeritus of Political Science Paul Beck at The Ohio State University.
One needs to differentiate between the facts of the plea deal and the guilt that has been basically accepted by Hunter Biden, and whether it is actually tied either to actions that Biden did, and I mean Joe now, when he was vice president, or even since then during the campaign. And of course, that link, I think that some are going to charge that there is indeed a link there, but it's not obviously proven. And Hunter Biden has not admitted to that at all. And so it may well be that there will be an attempt to try to connect him to his dad. But the attempt, I think, is going to fail. It's politics. And the Biden administration, I think, has been right to simply ignore this. But the ethical issues, I think, are even greater when it comes to the Trump family. And there are going to be allegations coming from the Democrats that the Trump family has taken advantage of his position, Donald Trump's position as president, to cement deals with the Saudis for a variety of other things. And so there's going to be this kind of back and forth on the ethics of it. Again, as far as I can tell, the Trump family members, and here I'm referring mainly to Kushner, but there may be others as well, haven't done anything illegal. They certainly haven't been charged with illegality, but there is an ethical issue there.
The mission is simple: keep Ohio teenagers safe on the road. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the number of 16 to 19-year-old drivers involved in deadly crashes is 3 times higher than other age groups. One organization is trying to pump the brakes on that statistic. This program is now older than some of its drivers. Started in 2006, 10,000 Ohio teens have taken Better Ohio Teen Driver curriculum to be more confident behind the wheel, with whatever conditions are thrown their way.
But you're trying to get them as prepared as possible for any type of moment.
Absolutely. The main concept of the day is to remove that first wide-eyed moment. Just purge that out of the teen driver's system and replace what we call panic input with a trained reaction. Anything they do with us in the program in a controlled environment, they could experience any day of the week out in just everyday traffic.
The spin avoidance car simulates spin outs and slippery weather. It's this advanced driver training beyond the rules of the road, which is part of a new groundbreaking study published in the journal Transportation Research Record, conducted by Ohio Health Grant Medical Center Trauma Services and Better Ohio Teen Drivers.
We kind of did the math on that and thought, all right, why do these kids crash? A lot of people think it's because of the mobile device. Most of these crashes are driver error due to inexperience, leading to loss of control of the vehicle.
We wanted to give back for their efforts and their partnership with Maria's Message.
On behalf of 10 TV and the Tegna Foundation, we present this check to the Better Ohio Teen Drivers organization and to you for everything that you guys do in our community. So congratulations. And
thank you very much.
Hopefully this goes very far for everything you do in our community.
Yep, appreciate it. Appreciate working with Dom and Channel 10. Thank you very much.
Better Ohio Teen Drivers Incorporated received $4,400 from the grant to expand resources and cover training costs. And remember, you can sign the pledge to stop distracted driving right now by going to 10tv.com/Maria's Message. Thank you all for being here with us today. Have a great rest of your weekend. And remember, we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning at Wake Up C-Bus starting at 4:25.